Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the REDX podcast. We are so excited to be here today. We're excited to have you back. If you're a first-time listener, welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm going to be your host today, and we have one of my all-time favorite guests on the show today. We have Dan Elzer. Dan, how you doing today, my man?
Doing great, Andrew. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, dude. I was just telling Dan before we went live here that we've done so many episodes of the REDX podcast with Dan that I went ahead and put together a web page full of all of our favorite episodes with Dan, the Dan Elzer series. I'm going to go ahead and put that here in the chat. So if you want to learn about listing appointments, well-balanced business, digital prospecting strategies, so much more, please go check out this little series of podcasts with Dan. So much amazing knowledge and wisdom in there. And we will add today's podcast to that as well. So I'm going to pop that in the chat there. Dan, let's get rocking and rolling.
Yes,
how
man.
are you doing today? What's new? What's going on?
I'm doing great. Actually, getting busier and busier. And I think that's what we're going to talk about. There's some things happening out there, and my clients have got me. Literally, it's been 2 years since I woke up and didn't know where I was, and I woke up and I couldn't figure out where I was till I went and turned lights on. So I know I'm traveling a lot when I don't know where I am when I wake up.
I was going to say our last show, you were in a hotel somewhere because you were so busy traveling.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, to our audience, one more time, if you're joining us, let us know where you're from. Say hi to Dan. If you have any questions for Dan, he is the master. He's got all your answers. I'm going to put you on the spot there, Dan. All the answers. He's gonna help us out here. And today we're going to be talking about the changing market, right? The last year and a half, 2 years has been one of the craziest markets many agents have expressed that they've ever seen. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but I think things are finally starting to look like they're cooling off a little bit. Maybe gaining, still a little crazy, but almost getting back to an introduction of normalcy.
Right.
And I think we're going to talk about a lot of those market changes, right? What agents need to know and what agents don't know they need to know as they get into this. So
exactly. You know, I heard one of my clients really gave a nice analogy to it, Andrew. They said, we've been going 100 mile an hour. Now we're going 70 and it feels weird.
Yeah.
and it's kind of what we're going to talk about. Okay. But the impact on individual agents in their business can be pretty devastating if we don't get prepared for it.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Dan, we got some people chatting in from New York, people who say they're a big fan. So thank you, everyone in the audience. And let's just jump right in, man. Talk about what you got prepared for us today.
Sure. Well, the most popular topic that I'm using or that I'm being asked to speak on is about this shift in the market and what's happening and why it's happening. And me being, we've talked enough, I'm a very business-based person when it comes to what we do in this business. And it's such a certainty. When we run it like a business, it is a certainty. So I found out, when I owned my company, that agents in the business and some brokers and some managers were not really clear on what the driving economic factors were that made things happen. So I always like to clarify for people. And I always say, if you know this, it's elementary to you, just bear with me. If you don't know it, please write it down. And that's the impact of the Federal Reserve on our industry. And I think you and I talked about going way back. Mm-hmm. One of those podcasts, I think I talked about how it started this ball rolling with the stimulus that they put out there.
Sure.
So we've got $10 trillion dumped into the marketplace, a year and a half ago, and we were the beneficiary of it. Mm-hmm. So if I may, there's 3 areas I'd like to talk about.
Yeah, let's do it.
I've been sharing with agents that they need to keep their eye on the rates because when interest rates rise, behaviors change. And I've had a couple of agents come back and go, Dan, I heard, I've been paying attention to the Fed. They said they're not raising interest rates till the end of 22, beginning of 23. And I went, ooh, okay. So just so everybody knows, again, if you know it, it's elementary. If you don't, the Federal Reserve controls what's called the interbank rate. The interbank rate is, if you're a bank, Andrew, and you need liquidity because you put a whole bunch of money in the marketplace, you can go to the Federal Reserve and go, I want some money, and they will lend you money.
Okay.
That interbank rate is what they charge a lending institution for doing installment loans, credit cards, those things. It's not controlling the real estate market or the the mortgages, 15 and 30-year mortgages. So when you hear that the Federal Reserve is not going to raise rates for a while, that is not what affects us. But there are two things that they did that does affect us. First being, they started buying mortgage-backed securities. So every time we do a transaction, you buy my house, you go get a mortgage company gives you the money, they give it to me. And usually Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac buy that mortgage, but they don't have all the cash in the world. So when we had this boom, there's a liquidity problem. And so the Federal Reserve printed money and said, we'll buy mortgage-backed securities. That kept the ball rolling.
Right.
Then they were buying the 10-year Treasury bond. And if everybody will do that, find an app, a financial app, and save the 10-year Treasury bond. Today, I've got it on mine. Today, the 10-year Treasury bond is currently running at, let's see, 1.571%. It's up 4 ticks, 4.7 ticks, meaning the interest rate went up. Now, buying the bond, when the Federal Reserve bought the bond, it causes the rate to go down. They're spending about $150 billion a month buying mortgage-backed securities in the bonds. But then we had inflation. I'm sure, have you seen any inflation out there, Andrew? Is gas a little more for you? Is getting groceries? Right. So inflation started to take over, and that is a byproduct of easy money in the marketplace and our choked supply chain because of the pandemic. Well, the only way to cool off a market when we've got inflation and real estate's been going through the roof is to raise the cost of lending. When you raise the cost of lending, people make different decisions.
Right.
So some of the people listening right now might have already felt that the buyers they worked with in 2020 aren't the buyers they're working with in 2021.
Right.
And that has an effect on you and your ability to stay sustainable and profitable going into next year. The term that you want to keep an eye out for is tapering. The Federal Reserve calls it tapering. And they're talking about starting to take away that easy money on a very slow basis. No one has said yet. The Federal Reserve hasn't said when. They just say we need to. So it could start as soon as next month, December. But with the way the market's going, I would say it's sooner than later. And then they'll just slowly start to decrease that money. But that will cause a slow rise in the cost of lending and in the interest rate. And then I'll talk about that effect later. But
No, and this is good. This is good information for people to know. And I think what the average agent or even the average home buyer, owner, or seller needs to know is where can they look in the news online for easy indicators of this, to find these hot words like tapering, inflation, like what's an easy resource for people to keep an eye on that will start to indicate some of this so they can be prepared.
So for the Federal Reserve, for tapering, it's just Google. You could Google it or Edge, whatever, and just put the Federal Reserve taper, and you'll pull up all the news articles where they've said those words.
Gotcha.
So you want to just watch that, and you'll see words like transitory. When you see transitory, that means inflation is temporary. That's what the Federal Reserve is saying. Then you have other people going, well, temporary can't last forever. It's been here a while. So there's actually a struggle in the markets right now for how quickly should the Federal Reserve taper, which is to start to pull off that money. So if you just Google in the mornings, I do it weekly. I wouldn't do that every morning, but what's come out on tapering. The other thing though, is I've got the CNBC and the Fox Business app. I can just hit it and and I've saved in my favorites, the 10-year Treasury bond.
Right.
And voila. And I don't know, here, maybe I can show.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is. Now that chart is the 1-year chart. Here's the one that's scary. That's 1 week.
Oh, wow. And that's, and does that correlates to interest rates, which correlates to
our 15 and 30. So if you go out also, and anyone can do this, you go on Google and just Google 10-year Treasury versus 30-year mortgage. And there are 50 charts that have been created that show over 20, 25, 30 years, how when the 10-year goes up, the 30 and the 15 go up. When it goes down, it goes down. It moves in perfect unison. So what does that mean for us in real estate is it's a predictor. I can literally look at it, and today we're up, 4 ticks. That's what they call it, 4/10 of a point. So that means tomorrow the interest rates will be up.
Right.
Because the money people will go, the 10-year went up, and that's kind of the money they use because people don't keep money for 30 years. But then the interest rate of the 30 and 15 year is higher than the 10 year, but it follows in unison as that one goes up and down. So that is our indicator. Now, why is it important when the Fed tapers? Just think about a stock. If I'm buying a stock and you're buying the stock, the price of the stock goes up, right? We're buying it. Well, interest rates work in inverse of the value of the bond. So if we're buying bonds, the price of the bond's going up and the interest rate's going down. If we stop buying bonds, the price of bonds go down and the interest rate goes up. So if the Federal Reserve stops buying bonds and we don't have enough people out in the marketplace because of inflation wanting bonds, we're going to have an increase in interest rates.
Gotcha.
Excellent. And it's already happening. I mean,
yeah. Well, and I was about to say, there's a billboard on my morning commute. There's a billboard that says, "Is your interest rate, higher than?" And then it gives a daily interest rate that changes. I know that's marketing and that's just kind of clever mortgage business stuff, but it has been creeping up, right? So even for the most average Joe like me, just watch those interest rates and see as those start creeping up. So interest rates are creeping up. We're keeping an eye on the market. We're keeping an eye on these bonds. What does that mean for day-to-day real estate practices, whether it's prospecting, whether it's who can buy or sell? What does that mean for agents?
Okay, so you play the part for me. I'm going to ask you a question. I want you to play the part of a real estate agent for me. If a rate goes up, the conventional wisdom out there, I've read stories where if it goes up a quarter of a point, you have up to 250,000 people that no longer qualify at the price point they were once at.
Wow.
So let's say you're out looking at a house, or I'm out looking at a house. The odds are, if you're out there with me right now, especially in this historically low interest rate, I'm buying at the top of my financial ability. So we're looking, we'll just call it the estates. We're looking in the estates.
Okay.
And all of a sudden the rates move a point over a month. I can't afford the estates anymore. I don't qualify because I was stretching to be there. How hard is it for you, or in your mind, how hard is it for me to now emotionally go from looking in the estates to looking in the manors because I can't buy in the estates anymore?
It feels like a huge blow to, my home buying dreams, right?
So do you just go, oh, well, I missed out and go buy in the manors? Or do you do one of these things? Could you do this? Let's wait and see if the rates come back down. Could you do that?
You could, but I don't think that's how it works.
I know, but I mean, but would a buyer say that though? Would a buyer go, God, let's wait.
Yeah.
Okay. Could a buyer say this to you? Hey, Andrew, I know the rates are up and I know I can't afford in here anymore, but maybe we can find a motivated seller that's really in trouble and I can still buy here. Do you think that could happen in the marketplace?
Sure.
Now, 35 years in the business, I've heard it over and over again in these booms and these booms that we're in and whenever the market resets. So what my worry is for all of your listeners, for all my REDX friends, is that if I'm not on top of my game and I'm working mostly the buyer side of business, I could end up with what I call a stall. How long does it take emotionally for someone to accept the fact they have to buy something less, or do they withdraw from the market and not even buy? If you don't have the skills and strategies to understand that with who you're working with, you could have a handful of people that go into a stall. You go 30, 60, 90 days while they're waiting. Then you have the cycle to purchase another 30, 45. You could get in a lot of trouble in a hurry if you're not careful. Right. So that starts to freak people out, Andrew. They start going, Dan, this is horrible news. I go, no, in 35 years, the greatest time I want to be in real estate is right where we are. Right where we are. Right. When this market starts to do this, I'm sure everyone on the REDX podcast, they wouldn't be on it, Andrew, unless they're a pro. The average agent that jumped in to try and make a quick buck would not take the time to learn. So those on this call or on this podcast are the pros. Learn, adjust your marketing strategies, adjust your skill sets. And while everyone else freaks out and goes and gets a second job because it's not as easy as they thought, you'll gain more market share while they leave. But you have to make adjustments to how you do the business. And when we make those adjustments, all of a sudden, man, we're in control of the marketplace.
Right.
So of course, we won't leave them hanging. We'll talk about those adjustments too.
Okay, excellent. I love that. Well, this is and this is so interesting to me, especially as a homeowner, because I might need to sell my home in a few years. I might be looking for those buyers or having a real estate agent look for those buyers on my behalf. And I obviously want to get the best out of, the best price out of my house. and then go find a new house, get the best price for that. But these things are not only important for buyers and sellers like me to watch, but for the agents to watch, so that yeah, they can adjust their strategy. And I love what you said about learn and adjust your skills to gain the market shares, or else you're just going to be sitting there waiting for the perfect market, right? And this is very similar to what we heard at the beginning of the pandemic. Is Are you gonna sit there and wait for things to correct itself, for the market to get less crazy, or are you going to adapt now and take advantage of what's happening now? So,
and that's my fear too, Andrew, because we had a large amount of agents make a change in behaviors to adjust to the urgency. The problem is now that inflation's there and the affordability is causing people to hesitate. Now those same skill sets aren't working. And I was at a conference earlier in this year, and I saw the best of the best on stage. These agents were luxury agents, high net worth agents, working with people. And whenever I heard them say these words, it just broke my heart. They go, last year, we were turning a lot of properties. This year, it's so much harder. It might take you 6, 7, 8 times before you get a deal. And I sat in the back and it broke my heart. As a businessman who's been in this business, they accepted that as okay. It's not okay. Every person that I do business with, you've heard me say before, I'm the doctor, they're the patient. If I'm not investigating, if I'm not diagnosing you for your ability not only to be qualified, your motivations, your urgencies, but to ability to compete. If I'm not doing that, then I'm giving away my human resource, my $1,000 an hour, $500 an hour, whatever, I'm giving it away for free. It is okay for me to make sure that I do a deep dive on everyone I give my time to. And right now, if you have people hesitant and you ask the right questions, you'll find out that they might be waiting for a sea change all of a sudden to go back to 2.5 or 2 and 7/8, and it's at 3.1 now or whatever. Well, that might never happen, because if the Fed pulls out, it might go to 3.5 and then to 4. And all of a sudden, 4%. My first house I bought was 13.5%. 4% is still an incredible rate. But man, when you saw 2 and 7/8, 4 sounds like the end of the world. And so I got to be on my game with my time, my resources, and my skill set for what's happening today.
Right. Well, Mr. Khan from New York Real Estate said it best: where there's a problem, there's an opportunity, right? And
amen.
If this is the problem we're facing, then we need to learn the opportunity. So, Dan, we've laid out an amazing foundation. What agents need to watch for, the indicators in the market, the indicators in where rates are headed. What are the skills and strategies that we're facing, that in the face of this changing market, that we need to know and learn to adapt?
Okay, so quickly, a couple of things. Number one, the pandemic, the rush, the urgency, and technology has pushed about 80%, 70% of agents on the buyer side of business.
Right.
So what that has done is listing agents are making a killing, and there is inventory, or you wouldn't have the most sales ever in your lifetime. So a lot of agents have bought into the myth, which we talked about in another one, that there's no inventory. So first thing I have to do is understand I have to balance myself. I have to diversify my business into both sides of the business. Because let's just say there's 1,000 agents in a marketplace, and there's 500 transactions to happen, and 500 on the list side, 500 on the buy side. Well, if 80% are on the buy side, you have 800 agents trying to get 500 sides. On the list side, you have 200 agents trying to get 500 sides. Sure. If you do the math on that, the listing agents get 2.5 transactions a month, or 30 deals.
Right.
The buyers get 0.4 transactions a month, or 6.
Sure.
So where do you want to be? 30 transactions or 6? So we got to balance. Now, people say, I don't have the time, Dan. There's too much going on. And I go, that's because you haven't played the doctor. You haven't vetted who you're with. Trust me, there are people that you're with right now that cannot or will not take action. That's why we have CRMs. That's why we have electronic ways of staying in touch with people. Put them on an incubator. Tell them when they're ready to act or they're able to compete, you can be with them. The time you gain there, the number one source of business for listings is your sphere of influence.
Good.
It's that simple. Now, my buyer agents out there that are going, but Dan, I've been a buyer agent my whole life. Yeah, you've probably sold a lot of people houses over the years. Have you gone back and talked to them? It's the best market ever for a seller. You probably have some loyal fans that might turn around and list with you if you put time into that engagement.
Right. So again, parallel to the beginning of the pandemic, it was reach out to your sphere of influence to find buyers because we have so many
Right.
sellers. Now it's reach out to your sphere of influence to find some sellers because we have, we're finding an increase in buyers, right?
And just for a stat for you and for everybody, this is right from the buyer seller survey from NAR.
Okay.
73% of listings sold in 2020 came from Sphere. The seller identified they went to a friend, family member, acquaintance, or agent that they knew to list their house.
Wow.
77% of the houses that sold only interviewed one person.
So they're going to who they know and they're sticking with that person.
And they're listing. So competition's not there. So when I hear agents say, I'm constantly getting beat up with competition, I go, you're not working your sphere. And they go, how do you know? Because if you're working your sphere, they're only interviewing one person. You go that other 23%, they're interviewing the world trying to find the lowest possible, cost agent. So get that sphere working. And I said this once before, and I'll say it again. It's this simple, Andrew. Give me one proactive activity per day, 5 days per week, 48 weeks a year. Give me an hour of your life, 1 day a week, 5 day, or 1 day, 5 days a week, 48 weeks. Every agent that I've gotten to be purposeful towards their sphere and towards listings, give me just an hour, 5 days, 48 weeks, transforms their career. But the only way we get there is to get on top of the time we waste on people that we haven't had the courage to vet properly or to investigate properly.
Gotcha. Well, this is so interesting. So let's talk. Sphere of influence is such a good source, no matter when and where the market is changing. It's great to be aware of how the market is changing so you can adjust how you work your sphere of influence. But let's talk about maybe a prospecting agent, right? REDX here, we're all about prospecting.
We're waiting for you to say that because there's a big opportunity there as well. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Excellent. So when the pandemic hit, people were saying, okay, there's no expireds, which there were old expireds. We've talked about this. There was plenty of opportunity, but kind of surface level, houses definitely, new expireds weren't coming up as much. A huge spike in for sale by owners because everyone's like, this is easy, I can do it myself. So how is that shifting? Are we going to go back to more expireds, more pre-foreclosures, away from for sale by owners? What's that looking like? Where should people prospect?
Here's the thing, that what you just said, it's already happened. And by the way, I have clients all over the world, as we've talked before. I got clients in New Zealand. Their central bank just pulled money away from them as well. And I've got a call next Sunday night with their management team because already people are getting worried there. So it's going to happen all over the world. But what that does on the positive side is people that thought it was easy for sale by owners, it's not going to be easy. There's an opportunity to prospect again and do the old school approach to being that trusted advisor to that FSBO and then convert them. As far as expireds go, to me, it's still the number one source of business. And the fact that I'm getting calls from clients where agents are struggling with how to deal with the emotion of a seller because their house didn't sell immediately. There's going to be withdrawals from people. There's going to be cancellations from people. And there's going to be opportunity to go out there in the expired realm to go get business. But if we wait, and this is if you wait, as you just said, till March, June of next year, everyone will have figured out we got to go do something. It's a little late to get on the bus then. It's time to do it now. It's time to start dividing that up.
Okay. So what does that strategy look like for doing that now? Should people be reaching out to expireds and for sale by owners right now? I mean, obviously they should, but how should that conversation change?
The conversation should change by being honest. This is the best tool we have right now, is be the honest, trusted advisor. Understand confrontational skill. Confrontational skill is just about me asking you more questions when you're upset. People always go, well, what's that skill about? It's if I get defensive or try to speak to you while you're fired up, it just turns into an argument. But if I let you vent, if I get questions going where you share, I'll lower those defenses, absorb that energy, and have an opportunity. So I call you and you're incredibly upset as a expired. I would do something like this. You would probably tell me, look, I don't want to list again with people. I don't know what's going on out there. And my approach would be simple. Well, Andrew, let me ask you this. Do you know why your home didn't sell in such a hot market? And that was always my approach. I just asked that question and people would go, Well, yeah, I know why. I go, why? And they'd go, well, it was my agent. Well, that's too broad for me. I would get deeper and go, well, what did the agent fail to do
Right.
to get the job done? And as soon as they would say, I don't know, I said, well, that's why you need to talk to me. I'm not coming over to list your house. I'm coming over to find out why it didn't sell. Then you can make an informed decision. I got more doors by using my expertise as a trusted advisor to determine why it didn't sell than trying to go in there and force them. Scott, hey, Scott, you see that?
Yeah. Scott Schultz.
I was his first trainer back in Hershey.
Love it. Well, welcome, Scott. Thanks for giving a shout out to Dan here. We love Dan here at REDX. Well, that's so crazy, Dan. And I think as agents hear this, I hope that this gives them some motivation to get out there and actually implement these strategies, actually take action, right? But I think one thing that you keep touching on that's so important here is having the right knowledge and having the right education, right? You can call as many expireds as you want. You can call as many for sale by owners as you want. You can prospect to the end of the world. You can even work your sphere to the end of the world. But if you can't be the informed doctor to meet those patients' needs, then all the prospecting and all the contacting in the world isn't going to do you hardly any good, right? You need to be educated and informed, articulate and confident as you go and implement these strategies. So
if there's something I'd say right now, Andrew, about where we're going, is I would alleviate the pressure on me to sell or list something. And I would increase the pressure on me to meet and understand people right now.
Right.
It's kind of like when I talk to companies about recruiting. I always go, stop worrying about recruiting, worry about meeting real estate agents. Right. Same thing if I want to do more business in real estate. If my pressure on myself is about a transaction, then I will go about it improperly when I meet you. If my pressure on myself is about engagement and learning, then I'll go ask you the right questions. The opportunity will appear and I'll take action. So it's all about, position yourself in front of as many people as possible as a trusted advisor and asking the right questions. Then you move into those skill sets that work. Now let's talk about REDX also a second.
Okay.
When I talk to people and they say, Dan, you don't understand, there's not enough time to do what you're talking about. I always go, there's two very important things I want you to do. One, be better, be the doctor, be better at vetting who you give your time to. But two, leverage the technologies around you. I loved you guys because you can cut out of my day about 3 hours a day of research, of hunting, of vetting the numbers. And I always tell people, I'm a huge fan, as you know, I always tell people, guys, REDX doesn't create miracles. REDX creates capacity.
Right.
If I use your tools, I wake up and have what would have taken me 3 hours to do. Maybe I wake up and they go, well, there's no expireds. I go, yeah, you didn't spend 3 hours to find out there was no expireds. You woke up and there was no expireds. But you also woke up the next day and there were 3, and you didn't spend 3 hours to find out there were 3.
Right.
So I always say, leverage the technology around you. You're the cheapest admin I could hire on my prospecting side. And my CRM is the cheapest admin from an operational perspective.
Right.
I learned to use those. I gain capacity to go meet these people I need to be able to get more listings.
Well, I love that. And I think more people need to hear that because we have, if I'm being totally honest and candid here, we do have customers who say, hey, I tried your product and I canceled because it didn't work. And our answer to that is, did it not work or did you not work because you weren't working hard enough? You expected REDX to be this miracle when in fact, all it's meant to do really is give you the capacity to make these miracles and deals happen, right?
Exactly. And that's, I try to drive that home with everyone I talk when I speak about you guys. Guys, don't go to them thinking they're not going to go find a number that doesn't exist. They're not going to get a number off of a do not call list, and they're not going to make a house expire. Right. They're going to bring you what's there and save you guys. You weren't there, Andrew, whenever I had my company, and we would spend hours researching expireds for our call night for our team. And I saw you guys come out and I was like, God, what I would have given to have access to that and not spend those hours.
Did you say call night as in one call night?
Yeah, I used to hold a call night that me and my management team would attend every Monday night. And so my agents would rotate through, and it was kind of a safe place. We would teach them how to call, talk about things, do little fun things, go call 5, come back in, and we'd create the environment where they could have fun going and getting inventory. But I also had 3 of the top 10 listing agents in my market. We really made it fun.
Right.
But we would try to do some of the work that you do in a snap for the team. And it was the worst. It was horrible.
I was going to say what you had to spend hours and hours preparing for, people can now get in the snap of a finger, because all they do is turn on their computer, load the leads. And as long as you're there early enough, or as long as you stay on the phones contacting these people for long enough, you're good to go.
So there you go, Scott. Who do you know? That he's that's my favorite thing, which we've talked about on some of these podcasts. Make sure you ask, who do you know, and when is your next real estate transaction? If everyone I engage, I ask those 2 questions, I'll be rich, man. I'll be rich.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Scott. And Dan, we're almost out of time here, but this has been amazing. I mean, we've talked about the foundation of where real estate is headed and where people can find indicators, and then how you can strategize and react to that and adjust to these changing markets. Is there anything else you want to leave with our audience today about this? Any other skills or strategies or advice?
Well, I've shared with you on the other podcasts. I have been training agents for years, tens of thousands. And we took the best stuff we had and put it into a space learning program. I've taught a lot of different ones. Scott knows one of my space learning programs I taught for that brand. So we put an 8-week space learning program that is on demand, video based, with you choosing your own accountability partner to stay on top of things. And it's a whopping $279. These things used to be $800-900 when you did them live. So it's Real Estate SWAT School, reswatschool.com. If anyone wants to check it out, go to reswatschool.com, and you can see my little promo video and see if it's for you. But everything I'm talking about business, having a business mindset, knowing your business model, executing, all that is taught inside of that program. And we've got all kinds of raving fans since we released it in April. So if anybody's up for it, go check that out.
Excellent. I love it. Well, thank you, Dan, for sharing that. I want to remind everyone that we have a special, or I today put together a special thing. We've talked about a lot of the past information that Dan has shared today on today's podcast. So if you want to go back and catch some of that past information, every podcast we've done with Dan has been amazing. I put them all together in a series. I'm going to post that link in the chat here. Go check those out. There's a lot to learn there. Combine it with what we learned today, and it will make your life as a real estate agent so much more effective. And thank you, Dan. Thank you so much. So,
Andrew, it's always a pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the team, and I wish you all the best, my friend.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. In closing today, I just want to thank our audience for coming out. Thank you for chiming in. Dan, I know you talked about your SWAT school. We just started something similar, where if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of prospecting, what to say on the phone, what to do, how to do it, we have just launched a REDX prospecting boot camp. Maybe similar to kind of what you do, but I think there's going to be a lot of good overlap, good differences there.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, go check it out at the redx.com products bootcamp. I put that in the chat there as well. And between SWAT school, between these free podcasts, all this free training, you are going to be able to do so much. So Dan, thank you again so much. And we will see everybody next time.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy.